Welcome to Community Cocktails with Kimberly, hosted by Kimberly Woodard, a realtor for nearly 20 years with Ebby Halliday Realtors. Join her every first and third Wednesday of the month as she meets with the top community influencers to help you get to know the area you want to call home. Don't just love your home, love your community. And now, your host, Kimberly Woodard.
Welcome, viewers. I'm so excited about this episode, and you should be too, because you're going to learn so much information about the real estate and this crazy market that we're in. Today's panel is such a treat, and it is a network group that I am part of called the Elite 20, this North Texas group of realtors with tons of experience. So again, you guys have such a treat. I'm going to introduce everyone. Of course, y'all know me, Kimberly Woodard with Ebby, and I've been doing this real estate gig for about 20 years. And now
Ben Baker. I'm with Keller Realty. I've been in the business now I'm into my 33rd year.
Steve.
I'm Steve Obenshain with RE/MAX Dallas Suburbs. I've been a local realtor for about 35 years.
And Terri.
Yes, I'm Terri McCoy, and I have with Keller Williams, and I've been in business. This is my 20th year, so I'm right there with Kimberly.
So we have lots and lots of years of experience here, and what a market we are currently in. I mean, I don't think any of us have seen this kind of market in any of our years. And so let's talk and let's really educate the viewers. The viewers have seen so much stuff on the media about the housing market and what it means, to be in this, whether you're a buyer or a seller. Of course, stats right now. I mean, I have some stats for the entire MLS system of North Texas. And just over March, we're seeing, our average days on market, 35, which is incredible. I think inventory is less than a month in inventory. Right. And our appreciation just for it on our sales prices have gone up just in the month of March over last year over 20%. I mean, that is incredible. Mm-hmm. So let's talk. If you are right now in this market as a buyer, we'll talk seller in a minute, but let's talk as a buyer. What would you give? What's the first tip you give to your buyer? We'll start with Ben.
Wow. I'd say you just have to be prepared. This isn't your grandmother's market, okay?
Yeah.
And when I say be prepared, yes, we've already we have the relationship with the loan officer. We're not just pre-qualified. We're pre-approved so that we can close this loan in 14 days if we need to. Most of mine are closing in 17 days or less, and I think that preparedness, one, gives you an advantage over, doesn't give you an advantage over cash,
right,
but it gives you an advantage over most.
Gotcha. Steve?
I believe you need, Kimberly, to have a realtor who really is knowledgeable of the market and really understanding of the market that we're in right now and knows how to craft an offer that puts you in a position where you have a legitimate shot of getting the home that you are trying to purchase. Right now, it's a very, very challenging market, but with help, with an agent that really understands the market and knows how to put you in the best possible position, as Ben kind of alluded to with regard to the lender. But that and everything else is very, very important right now.
And Terri?
Yeah, and I think I'll just dovetail on Ben and Steve. What we've seen is setting the expectations with the buyer. During that buyer consult, sitting down with them, talking to them about exactly what to expect. Here's how many homes are in your price range, narrowing it down so they know going into it, the expectations. And then going through underwriting, like Ben said, with your buyer through underwriting, and they're totally approved, and having a local lender, because the local lenders have that pool of appraisers that most likely would come closer to appraising versus an outside appraiser. All those different nuances of a offer that we can help our buyers with is going to help that buyer. and also our relationship with the other agents that we communicate with, and what is the best needs of the seller so we can put our offer together so it fits the seller. Because it's not always the highest price. It might be that they need a lease back for 2 months or whatever the case is. And I think that's kind of how we just educate our buyer and also set the expectations. And I think everybody goes into it knowing what to expect.
I love everyone's input because that is so true. I'm going to tag on to all y'all's and indicate that we really are selling our clients to the other side is, really, and as a buyer, the buyer has to think of it as selling themselves to the seller versus, I just want to buy your house. They're selling, why should we go with their offer compared to the other 10, 15, 57?
72. Yes. Right.
Offers out there. Why should that seller go after that? Take that buyer's offer, especially when and we've all been seeing this. As the listing agent side, you get I have a spreadsheet down, and I have anywhere from 10 to 15 to 20, et cetera, offers. And I've got to, which one is really going to not just, we're going to accept it, is actually going to make it to that closing table. So, and I think it's so important, and y'all all touched on it, is the lender. Getting them, fully through, that's a huge selling point. Because sometimes they may have a cash one and a finance, and the seller's looking, well, if this guy is already through underwriting and I can gain $15,000 more, well, then why wouldn't I take that one? Mm-hmm. So yeah, so many things. So let's talk about what we're seeing in helping these buyers. There's so many buyers out there, and they're getting frustrated. I mean, they've been, looking at homes, making offers. I hear it all, day. They've lost out several times because of this marketplace. But, sometimes I think, they're not knowing what's actually these other people are putting in the offers. So let's talk. We'll go opposite direction. We'll start with Terri.
Yeah. So what we're seeing is we're really picking the other agent's brain as much as we can. You get those agents that are just kind of, tell everything, and they can tell whatever the seller instructs them to tell. So a lot of them will say, I can't tell you that. Well, they really can. So it's a matter of just kind of asking those questions in a way that doesn't give us, they're not treating us unfair, treating the other agents unfairly, just asking the questions to get those answers that you need to help their seller and then to help your buyer. And I think, once again, like you said, educating your buyer on the process. And sometimes with the buyers, you've got ones that you're going to look out on something, every squirrel finds a nut. So there are those ones, but we also try to tell them on those cream puff houses, on the houses that are, everybody thinks they're great. They're the cream puff houses. Everyone's going to bid on them. So maybe let's look at something that maybe needs paint, or there's going to be less offers on, and you're going to have a better chance of getting those. So there's just different ways to navigate through this lovely waters that we're in.
Maybe reset your expectations, of what you're going after. So
yes, and even perhaps consider other areas. Perhaps not. Don't necessarily zero in on one neighborhood or one area of town or one suburb. Have options. Having options can be very, very beneficial to you. Again, the communication between the buyer's agent and the listing agent is important. And again, the totality of the offer that you're presenting is important. But try not to just zero in on a neighborhood or a suburban location. Try to have options, and that, I think, puts you in a better place in many situations.
Couldn't agree more. I think in this COVID era that we find ourselves in today, you can live anywhere, and I think the setting the expectations with your buyers it's so important that in the past, we had to have you within, because the average commute from work to home was roughly 23, 24 minutes. And today, I think that doesn't matter at all.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter. And to Steve's point, if Plano is your first choice, then what's your second or third? Because oftentimes we might have to look into that now, instead of being dead set on, Plano West or Wakeland or South, whatever it is. Have some options, and I think that'll help lessen the disappointment, because we're finding the average buyer today, they're having to write 3, 5, 6 offers, and as the professional, if we don't prepare them for that, then now it's our fault.
Right.
Now it's our fault. Okay, and so setting the correct expectations, and then having a list of maybe your top, your second, and maybe your third choice will help.
No,
Right.
I agree. I have a buyer right now, and we have kind of a little bubble around. We have Richardson, North Dallas, Carrollton, and the Colony, and we've looked at everything there. But the one thing I think buyers get in, and it's the adrenaline, that kind of kick of everyone wants that house. You get to pull up at the house, and you've got this line down the door. Well, if all these people want it, I should want it. I do tell them, especially a lot of my first-time home buyers, which are, I feel so bad with that they're in this market. But I tell them, remember, this is your largest financial investment. So make sure this is the house you want to go for. And when we make that offer, I want you to feel good that, if we don't win it and we find out it closed at X amount, that you're like, well, that's great, because this was my top, and that's, I think, the best way, I have found for them to kind of navigate a little bit through this marketplace that is just rolling through. What's March? I mean, we're in March. We finished March, April. I mean, what's going to be May?
Who knows, right? Another surprise awaits, yes. I'm sure.
I know. Well, so we've talked about the buyer in here. Let's talk about the seller. Of course, we all know it's a seller's market, but sellers sometimes think when it's a seller's market, well, I don't have to do anything. I could just, my house can look lived in. I can just plop the sign in the front yard. Mm-hmm. Let's do those myths of what is the reality and to really getting that multiple interest. Steve, let's start with Steve.
Well, the reality is that everybody wants the best houses, whether you're the all-cash buyer or you're the first-time buyer putting 3.5% down on an FHA mortgage. So it stands to reason that the best homes are going to garner the most interest and the most offers. Now, from a seller standpoint, you're often better off to spend some money to fix up if you're able to do so, and you can make your money back and make a tremendous amount of money beyond that. I had a situation recently where a client was offered, I think it was $415,000 on a property, and it needed all of the cosmetic work. I had them do all of the cosmetic work, which amounted to about $30,000, and we resold the home. We sold the home for $100,000 more. So by spending $35,000, they made back $100,000 more. So it's very wise to make the house look good in this market if you want top dollar.
Yeah. No. Ben?
Yeah, I think that one, marketing matters.
Yes.
I think your professional matters. Those things you can't. Don't cheat yourself now. Okay.
Right.
Scrimp on other areas, but don't scrimp in this area. Yeah. And take the advice of a seasoned professional, because, like Steve's point, I won't have you do any improvements if I can't generate a 3 or 4 or 5 times return on that. And sometimes it's very simple. It might be light cosmetic. Other times it's. I mean, we just did one, and with my contractors, we were able to completely refresh the kitchen, and it cost us $12,000, but that allowed us to push the price another $52,000 with that light refresh. And naturally, I'm a rock star in my seller's eyes, and I appreciate that. But that's just experience going to
Right.
work for you.
No, I
So.
agree.
Right.
Terry?
Yeah, I think with us, what we did, way back, what was it, February, March, what we told them then and what we're telling them now is two different things. They don't have to do as much as they once did, but they do have to, like, Ben and Steve said, you do have to do those things that when people walk into that house, they're not sitting there going cha-ching, cha-ching, figuring out all this and over escalating what the prices are. And you're going to get more offers, and therefore it's going to push the price. So we are still doing some staging when the house needs it. So that's kind of still a very important part of it. If that homeowner isn't a natural decorator, we bring in the stager. And I think those are things that will cause it to sell and get more money too.
Yeah, I agree. I have seen, doing less, but the basic things, paint, that fresh look. I always tell people fresh and clean. That's what people don't want to go into your dirty house. They don't want that. They want something that is clean. So they want the fresh, the landscaping to be fresh. You want that drive up, the fresh mulch. It doesn't cost much, but it makes such a big impact. And, clean those windows, scrub everything down, and then just some fresh paint in areas that maybe you need it. Maybe it's just that the woodwork needs a little bit of touching up and freshness, but that can make such a big difference. I know sometimes we look at, depending on if the kitchen's a little outdated, or do we replace all that? Not as, sometimes we're not having to do that, but because people can see, I'll go ahead and put in my whatever gas cooktop that I've been wanting, because I was going to do that anyways. But I do see that still fresh. And that brings me to a point. I went to a house the other day, and even my buyers were like, they knew we were coming, didn't they? My other tip is, if you're a seller, don't, if you're going to take a shower several hours before you don't take it before you leave. That's like the worst thing, because buyers are like, oh, did I interrupt you? Like that kind of thing. So I really think presentation is, the key. And then, all of a sudden they may generate, more on it, which we are seeing. So let's talk about, as the seller, I think another thing, buyers are overwhelmed because they're competing against the offers, but our sellers, there's an overwhelming for them, because before, maybe if we had a multiple offer, we'd have a handful. That was really good. We were like, wow, we did good on that one. But now it's more than that, and it's they almost, even when they were getting the showings, I think I've had sellers where they're just overwhelmed with how many people are coming through their home, and how how are you coping and with your sellers on that. But I'll let you start.
Again, it'll go right back to expectations, but one point I hope we don't miss, and is that not every house is selling in hours.
Yeah.
And if we don't educate our sellers properly, they think they can put out junk, and the consumers and the professional agents, they're not going to let you buy junk.
Right.
Okay. Because we're seeing 1 out of every 4, 1 out of every 5 homes now come back on the market. We're seeing in some areas homes that are languishing on the market for 25 days, 32 days, 180 days. So not every property selling, for top price in days. So again, we've got to prepare you for that. And now I've already forgotten your question.
Well,
but,
no, it was more, how are we coping with the seller, our sellers on this overwhelming?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And again, I think one, the conversations and just the planning. If things go the way I expect them to go, then we've got more than enough to say grace over within 2, 3, 4 days or a week. for a seller to think, no, let's leave it out there another week or two. Maybe we'll get more offers when we've already got an offer that fits your needs.
Right.
And again, it's not always about price. This will fit timing. This might fit on price. I've had one seller actually knew the buyer from church.
Oh, wow.
And the offers were about the same, and they wanted that family to have the home because they knew the love and care that they would place in that home.
Yeah.
So we never know what the advantage is.
We don't.
So we've got to throw a lot of spaghetti up against the wall to see what sticks.
I get it.
Right.
When I talk to sellers about the potential activity they could be facing, I often discuss the possibility of them moving out of the house for a couple of days, perhaps taking a weekend vacation,
Yep.
and giving me full reign to the house for 2 or 3 days, because quite frankly, a lot of sellers do get terribly tired of just one person after another coming through their house for 12 hours in 2 days' time. So it's not a bad idea for a seller to consider that as an option.
No, I love that tip.
Yeah.
And Terry?
Well, Steve stole my line, but it's okay. That is what we do. We tell our sellers, especially if we call them our coachable sellers, the ones that are pricing it right and doing everything right to get their house ready. We'll just say, is there anywhere you can go this weekend? A staycation, the lake, a friend's house, or someplace that you want to go. And so you go off for the weekend, and then just let me know when you're coming back on Sunday. We'll stop the showings, and then we'll have multiple offers for you. And we'll talk about it on Monday morning. That way we put the deadline, Sunday night, and then that way all the buyers can get through with the open house if their agent can't be there during the week or the weekend, and then come to the open house, and then we should have, multiple offers for you, and then discuss them on Monday.
That's what I've been doing. It's been working out, and a lot of my clients, we've planned their showing, when are they going to be available to leave, or they're going on a trip or something already, then we just backdate everything. Yeah. And so it's been challenging, but I think it works out better for them as well. Well, it has been a pleasure, and I hope my viewers have had such a great time listening to all these experts here about our housing market. And I will chime this is that now you see why it is so important to use a professional during, especially the hype of this marketplace, to help you navigate whether you're the buyer or the seller. You really need that person to help you on your side. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
And
Thank you.
cheers to us.
Thank you.
Cheers. And cheers to this real estate roller coaster.
I'll drink to that.
Thanks for tuning in. If you'd like to contact Kimberly with your real estate needs, you can reach her at kimberlywoodard.ebby.com. We hope you enjoyed our guest this week, and remember, don't just love your home, love your community.